Well, welcome to another edition of the Influence Global podcast, and I'm really delighted to be having with me a very special guest and a friend, really. We met recently in Dubai, and that is no other than Sharad Agarwal. That's right. Have I got that right, Sharad? Because I know
Absolutely. Spot on.
Spot on. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, welcome to the show. What's the temperature like in Dubai at the moment?
It's actually pretty good. This morning I was out and about and it was 24 degrees Celsius.
Oh my God. And as we record this episode, I know it's going to be published in 2023, but it is about -2 degrees here, so it's very cold. Good stuff. So we're going to be talking all about the metaverse today, which is a very highly topical subject. But before we get into the weeds of that, perhaps you'd be good enough to just tell us a little bit about your background and how you've got into the space of being a sort of B2B influencer in this sector.
Sure. So like you said, my name is Sharad Agarwal. I'm the Chief Metaverse Officer of cyber-gear. It's an agency I started some 26 years back. So I'm basically a Web 1 guy who's gone through the whole journey of transitioning from Web 1 to Web 2 and now to Web 3. So it's been a lovely ride. I've just followed technology. I've kept it simple and I've invested a lot of my time and effort in educating the market whenever technology has moved drastically from one phase to another. And currently, I'm doing the same. I'm educating my audience on the benefits of the new technologies. So whether it be Metaverse, NFTs, DAOs, tokenization, we need to cut out the jargon and we need to explain in very simple terms, to people what these technologies enable us to do. So I'm a great believer in using technology to create an impact and to create a better world for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. I couldn't have put that better. And I think you've used something that I think is very relevant to me. I mean, I'm a simple guy at the end of the day. I need stuff explained easily so I can understand not just technology, but how it can change the way I do things. And I know it will be the same for some of my listeners. So if you can simply tell us what the metaverse is as a simple definition and why you think it's going to be revolutionary for us.
Sure. So I'll do it step by step. Metaverse is a metaphor. Metaverse can be whatever you want it to be. It's up to your creativity and imagination. And if I go next level, Metaverse is what the internet was supposed to be when it started. So now I think it's taking the right direction in that we, the people, will now own our data and our content in so-called Web3 phase, which is the phase we are embarking on. Because when you go back, let's say 10 years, social media outfits, the big guys like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, were making billions of dollars. And we, the people who were generating content on a daily basis with our posts, likes, shares, forwards, etc., made nothing, zero, nada, right? Now times are changing. There is a major shift in power happening where we, the people in this creator economy, will own our own digital assets. And then we will have the opportunity to monetize it. And that is the major shift that's happening. And if I may give you a very quick example to explain my point, let's talk about the fashion industry, because that's the low-hanging fruit in terms of applications in the metaverse. So far, if you look at Web 2, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, all these guys would create a collection and we would choose and buy one of those. But what is going to happen in Web 3 is a digital first approach to fashion, which means we will create our avatars. Technology already exists to be able to do that in 60 seconds or less. And then we will try on clothes digitally. And we can even design them. We can choose the color combinations, the styles. We can put our initials there, what have you. So we will decide what we are going to wear. And Nike has been at the forefront, as you must be reading, in the metaverse space. So they've already, created a tool on their website where you can go today, design your own shoe, and they will ship it to you. So
Wow.
this major shift in power is already happening. So every brand, regardless of which industry you are in, has to rethink, reimagine, and re-engineer their business model. And you have to have, the people or the community at the center of it all.
No, it's fascinating, isn't it, really? When you think about a brand like Nike, who's a multi-billion-dollar global brand, and the thought of actually having your own Nike shoe that's tailored to you. Because I think so often what we've done is we've when we come to buying things, it's all about mass bulk buying and pricing driven by if you only buy X amount of them in the retail world. But this whole idea of personalization, I think, is really fascinating, isn't it? Great. So you've talked about fashion. Now, the other big sector, of course, is real estate, isn't it? Because and the property area where you can, I mean, we've seen sort of. I know when you go and buy a property, they'll show you flat plans, and this is what your property could look like. But the idea of almost you being, absolutely living in the space before you've even bought it, I think is quite amazing. What's your experience around that?
Yeah, so real estate, or rather virtual real estate, is going to be huge in the metaverse. And this is only the beginning. And what's going to happen is that most of the developers are going to create their apartments or villas or complexes in the metaverse first before they actually start building. Because what this will do for them is their clients can come in and have an immersive experience, right? They can see the view from the 60th floor of a skyscraper.
Yeah,
and
incredible.
then visualize. And if they like it, they can rent it, lease it, buy it. They can even rearrange the decoration of their apartment. And once they are totally happy, is when they place an order. And this gives a very good real-time feedback to the developers that this is what the market needs.
Of course.
So I think in Web3, the whole emphasis is on customers first. And that way, you are not going to build a skyscraper with no takers, because you are in a way giving people what they want.
Yeah.
So Metaverse, is going to offer this opportunity for business owners to build it right.
Yeah, no, indeed. And we were on a call, weren't we, a little while ago? They were talking about construction sites and, being able to almost plan where things are and remove roadblocks that mean, because, when you think about project management in construction, that's a huge amount of challenges with suppliers coming in, stocks coming in, and I think when it comes to project management, I can see how the metaverse can play a big part in making that a whole lot simpler and more efficient as well.
Yeah, actually, I say it all the time, when I speak on this subject across the world, that metaverse is for every industry and every geography. None of us is going to be spared. We eventually have to hop on to this bandwagon. And everything is moving very fast. It's moving at the speed of thought. And so, all of us have two choices. Either we be leaders or followers. And I prefer to be a leader.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's amazing. One of the other things I was going to ask you is about sort of because effectively you're almost in a game experience, aren't you? So how does that affect like processing time and computer bandwidth? I mean, we already have problems with Wi-Fi, don't we, in meetings and all that sort of stuff. The thought of presenting an idea to a client, how do we get around that? And maybe that still isn't perfected.
Yeah, not yet. It's early days. And the other challenge is that whatever people build in the metaverse has to be mobile friendly. Because we are all the time on our mobiles, right? And according to studies, each one of us spends an average of 6 hours on our mobiles, and we look at our mobile on an average more than 300 times a day. Wow. You and I don't realize it, but if you start counting on tomorrow morning onwards, how many times you look at your mobile, you'll end up close to that figure, believe it or not. Okay, So whatever people decide to build has to be mobile friendly, which comes with its own sets of challenges, because here you have a very small screen and you've got to navigate, universe. It's very hard. It's very challenging. But the good news is that the UI UX interface that we talk about is improving all the time. And even technology, we are presently in 5G, but let me tell you, 6G is on the anvil. Companies like Ericsson are already working on it. It might take a couple of years, but then the way time flies, it'll be there before we know. And then things will be downloading at supersonic speed. We won't have to wait. Like when I started, digital business 26 years back, we used to have dial-up modems, right?
Yeah, I remember. Me too. I remember it.
Yeah.
Goodness.
We are from
Wow.
the same generation.
Yeah, of course. You could go and make a cup of tea and it
that.
still hasn't connected.
Yeah, and it would drop off after connecting, right?
Yeah.
So we've gone through those. And, one thing I want to put in perspective here for your listeners, from, let's say, 1996 to today, we started with, let's say, low bandwidth. Today, we are watching Netflix on internet with almost no buffering. But it has taken us 26 years from those days till today. But this time around, it's not going to take 26 years. It will just take a couple of years because technology has accelerated. And all these Gen Zs who are born in as digital natives, they know their way around. So we don't have to educate them. It comes naturally to them. So that's when, mass adoption is going to happen, when technology accelerates, when all these Oculus clunky glasses become just like the one you and I are wearing, price comes down to $100, mass adoption is going to happen. It's a few years away, but I can predict with a lot of certainty that we will all be spending a couple of hours in the metaverse, at least by 25, 28, around that time.
Goodness me. And do you think the younger generation will be the first adopters of it? Do you think the older
already
generation...
are? I mean, between you and me, my mentor is a 21-year-old.
Good. Your mentor?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I learned from the Gen Z. Last evening, I hosted a webinar. The title was Gen Z and the Metaverse. And let me tell you, I had some amazing 21-year-olds and a 20-year-old on the panel. And if I may give a shout out to Alistair Pernigo from Italy, he's 20-year-old. He calls himself a futurist. A 20-year-old brands himself as a futurist. Think about it.
It's incredible.
And this young kid started when he was 8 years old. He used to watch at the airport the police dogs come and sniff passengers. And that got him thinking, my God, he has now built the metaverse of senses, where you can smell stuff in the metaverse. And he's not looking to monetize by selling to these perfume companies or what have you. He's looking at healthcare and the bigger picture, because each of our organs have a particular smell, our liver, our kidney, etc. So doctors remotely with 90% accuracy can detect the state of your body remotely using his technology.
That's incredible, isn't it? Wow. Yeah. That's
a game changer.
It really, really is. Yeah. Because, I mean, if you think about even during COVID, we talk about, advancing 10 years probably forward in that period of time. Everybody, certainly in this country, would always think about, I just need to go and see my doctor and make an appointment. And of course, because suddenly that wasn't possible during COVID so much, and we were having to do video calls, we realized, well, actually, this is quite efficient. I just send a picture of my problem. And I know that's not possible always, but there are certainly that is something as simple as a video call and a picture has reduced the amount of time that doctors have been occupied by seeing patients, which they otherwise can do with a video call. So you're right, technology is really embracing things. Really fascinating insights here. So, I mean, you now as an influencer, I would suggest that your big area is one of education. You touched on it at the beginning, and helping brands and organizations think about this. In fact, I did the other day, I put in LinkedIn, I just typed in jobs metaverse to see if they were coming up in titles, and they are now coming up in job titles, which is really fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, when I changed my designation to Chief Metaverse Officer, I Googled that and only a handful showed up. And
Really?
when I checked last week, there were more than 500 people who decided to call themselves Chief Metaverse Officer. So that is exponential growth. And my prediction is towards end of next year, there'll be north of 10,000 people with the same title, because every organization will have to have a need for somebody who can create a metaverse strategy for the brands.
Yeah.
So this is coming, and with a great deal of certainty, I can predict that. And most large brands, even in UAE, like Emirates Airlines and some real estate developers, are already looking around for such people who can guide them right. Because to succeed in the metaverse, it starts with building a robust strategy.
Of course.
Right? Like in any business.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of pillars. You have to have a roadmap that's practical, and it has to have a community first approach. A lot of brands I find who are coming and talking to me want to get into the metaverse without having any community. And I don't know, Gordon, if you picked up this news, but it was there about last week, where the European Union invested 400,000 euros in building a space in the metaverse, and only 5 people showed up.
Oh my God.
No ROI, disaster, right?
Absolute disaster.
And they failed because they didn't have any community.
No.
So my advice to all brands is have a community first approach. Start building your community now.
Yeah.
And if you already have an existing Web2 community, start educating them on Web3. In other words, don't have Zoom meetings with them, have meetings with them in the metaverse. Let them experience it. Let them create their avatars. Let them come in anonymously. Let them interact in various spaces that you create. In the beginning, they will hit their head against the wall or they'll fall in the river, but that's fine. You need to, engage them in a fun way. Yeah. And there are enough free-to-use platforms. There is Spatial. There is youarenowhere.com. Sorry. There's Mootup. There's so many. You can Google them. But I find companies don't know enough to get started on this front, and they need to.
Yeah, they don't. What you're saying is they don't know what they don't know. So, in other words, having somebody like you or another expert just giving them teasers and ideas to consider is worth looking at. So let's just talk more now as an influencer. People, you've got over 30,000 followers on your LinkedIn. How have you managed to do that, and what type of how are people booking you to speak? How are you making your money as a B2B?
Sure. So you asked me a lot of questions. Let me just try and answer each one of them. So getting to 30,000, community members on LinkedIn has not been easy, and it didn't happen overnight, obviously.
Of course.
I've been at it for years. So I'm very active on LinkedIn in that I'm not just a consumer, but I'm a producer. So I produce content almost on a daily basis. And between you and me, I invest an average of 2 to 3 hours per day. Okay, so it's not easy. There's a lot of hard work. You have to decide what people want, and then you have to create content accordingly. Not all of it is created by me, but I share good stuff, which is what people need. And that has helped me in large measure to take that leadership position. And believe it or not, some people expect me to post religiously. And one of my friends the other day called me and said, Sharad, are you okay? I said, yeah, thank you. But why do you ask? He says, because I didn't see you on LinkedIn yesterday.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I have some really committed followers, and they feel let down if they don't get that sound bites or content from me. So that's good feedback, obviously, because people want to know more. And just for the information of your listeners, there are an average of 10 to 15,000 articles about the metaverse that are published every month on various online platforms. So there is traction, there is an appetite. And luckily, there are enough creators, who are creating original content. And for me, creating content is not difficult because I own a lot of platforms where I host webinars, podcasts such as these. So this is all original content, right? We have panelists and we talk to them. So we are creating engaging conversations, putting out good content almost every alternate day or on a weekly basis. And we track also how many people are engaging. And that's good. Like I posted something this morning. I've probably got 200 people already liking it and commenting on it. And as the days go along, it just kind of gets indexed in Google and people come back, researching for content. They land up on our webinars or our podcasts. So it's organic. And obviously, when you reach 30,000, you have a sweet spot, right? Whatever you put out is seen by a lot of people. So I do recommend to your listeners to invest their time in building a community. It's hard work. And there's no point buying followers or anything because there are companies that do that. That's a big no-no.
Quite.
You have to have people who believe in what you're doing. And that organic way of growing is rewarding. And to answer your very quick question about my speaking engagements, etc. Yeah, so I went on the speaking circuit just last year, and I was lucky to be invited to speak at the Museum of the Future in Dubai, which is so iconic. And it was a Metaverse conference. I had a keynote there, which was, if I remember right, it was called Virtual is the New Real, which was very appropriate for our times.
Great title.
Yeah, and I got a good response in that, people asked a lot of questions. And that went well. After that, I've been speaking at NFT London last month. Before that, in NFT Europe in Valencia in Spain. I've done a few other gigs in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah tomorrow. And yeah, so it's all good going. Next year is a very packed calendar. We are going to 7 different countries, talking about Web3, Metaverse for business, Metaverse for HR training. That's huge. I don't know if you picked up this story, but Emirates Airlines recently hired 4,000 crew, and they're going to train them in the Metaverse.
Are they? Goodness.
Yeah, 4,000 crew members in the Metaverse. And it's a great use case.
Yeah,
because this crew is spread across 60 countries and 5 continents. And in Web 2, each one of them would fly to Dubai, park themselves for 2 months, go to an office every day, morning to evening, and then get certified. All this is out. They will train from wherever they are at their own pace in the Metaverse and look at the cost savings.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah.
And this is the way forward. I'm sure all airlines in the future, all banks in the future, all organizations in the future will use the Metaverse to train their employees and their teams.
Yeah, well, what I think will be interesting, the moment you get a great example like Emirates, others will follow. So when one industry company does a good job of it, it's almost like, well, you can see their competitors thinking, well, we better be doing this too, because if we don't, we're going to be left out in the cold. And not least of all, it's going to save us lots and lots of money. So I think it's going to, as like any sort of new technology, it will start to roll a bit and then it will grow rapidly, won't it? Because as we got more and more adoption
starting next year.
Yeah, amazing. All right, Sharad, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, and it's so lovely to see you with that amazing backdrop. For those of you that can't see it, looks like he's right in Dubai there now. It's lovely. How can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I think best way to connect is on LinkedIn. So they just type in my name, Sharad Agarwal. That's one way of connecting. The other is to visit my website, which is cyber-gear.ai. They can find all about me there. And lastly, before we sign off, I want to inform your viewers that I recently joined as an advisor on the board of Elysium Ventures, which is a VC firm out of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We've got $100 million fund and we are investing in Web3 startups. So if anybody is interested in that aspect of getting funded by us, that's another good reason for them to connect with me. And I'll be happy to have a look on deserving candidates and organizations. And ideally, we would like them to create something that will create a better world. because that's our vision. And yeah, there are a lot of young guys, the Gen Zs, like we discussed today. I love what they are doing, and it makes us feel that our future is in good hands.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely way to end it. Thank you, Sharad, and all the best to you.
Thanks, Gordon. See you on the other side.